While it was never confirmed due to Frank Lundy's death, various clues from Dexter hint that the FBI agent secretly knew Dexter Morgan was the Bay Harbor Butcher. Considering Dexter had been moonlighting as the Bay Harbor Butcher for years without coming under any serious suspicion by his Miami Metro co-workers like Dexter's Angel Batista, Frank Lundy was his first true adversary to come close to exposing the truth. Dexter established that Lundy was an extremely talented agent with a reputation for solving seemingly impossible cases, but the series still sees the case solved without Lundy nabbing the real culprit right under his nose. Once Dexter had successfully framed Sergeant James Dokes as the Bay Harbor Butcher, Frank Lundy left town for his next case, with no further mention of being suspicious of Dexter. When Lundy returned to track down the Trinity Killer in Dexter Season 4, he only briefly reunited with Deb and Dexter before being murdered by Trinity's daughter Christine, thus leaving no concrete answer to whether he knew the true identity of the Bay Harbor Butcher. However, prior to his death, there were several clues that Lundy knew that Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher all along. Lundy hinted at understanding Dexter's killing motivations. His understanding of the Bay Harbor Butcher's MO was a little too insightful. Keith Carradine as Frank Lundy looking at someone in Dexter. Frank Lundy mentions to Dexter that the only excuse for killing is to save an innocent life, which is exactly the motivation for the Bay Harbor Butcher, or at least the moral code that Harry gave to Dexter. This Dexter Season 2 line directed at Dexter himself hinted that Lundy knew he was the Bay Harbor Butcher, but may have believed what he was doing was a necessary evil. Lundy spent his life hunting serial killers in order to save lives, and although he wouldn't kill a criminal himself unless absolutely necessary, Dexter is eliminating the murderers in a way that ensures they won't be able to take any more innocent lives. Lundy is very by the books in the way that he operates, but he realizes that this also means many clues and pieces of evidence become unusable or formalities become hindrances. While he may not agree with the morality of the Bay Harbor Butcher's actions, his line to Dexter suggests that he may hesitate to capture him as his work is needed. More than likely, however, Lundy's principles about catching killers would still mean that he would pursue Dexter, even if he understood his reasoning. He called out Dexter for his sloppy blood work. Lundy teased that he knew Dexter messed up on purpose. Frank Lundy in Dexter Season 2. This appears to be the most damning evidence that Lundy knew, or at least highly suspected, that Dexter was the Real Bay Harbor Butcher. In Dexter's Season 2 episode Morning Comes, Lundy interviews Dexter about that sloppy blood work he did on Anthony Rodrigo's case, which would have put him in jail had it not been proven wrong in court. Lundy then calls Dexter one of the most cautious and precise forensic specialists that he's worked with, suspecting that he may have purposefully goofed the blood work to get Rodrigo off. Of course, this is exactly what Dexter did, as he wanted Rodrigo on the street so that he could kill the murderer himself. Dexter then gives unconvincing excuses about being overworked, though it's clear that Lundy doesn't believe him. Lundy never follows up on Dexter's poor blood work, but it's clear that at this point, the FBI agent did suspect Dexter of purposefully botching the case, which is a clue that he could have been Dexter's Bay Harbor Butcher. Lundy confronts Dexter about BHB in the train car. He almost directly calls Dexter out. Frank Lundy confronts Dexter in Dexter Season 2. While the series is clearly framing the scene as Dexter fearing Lundy is onto him, the intelligence of Lundy still hints that he's giving Dexter nods about his suspicions. When Lundy first walks up to Dexter, he asks him, "If you were the Bay Harbor Butcher, would you use a place like this?" Lundy then continues to closely monitor Dexter's compulsive process as he sets up his kit, cleverly mentioning that the Bay Harbor Butcher would be compulsive and orderly. When Dexter agrees that the Bay Harbor Butcher would never have thought he'd be a role model, the look in Lundy's eye hints that he suspects Dexter is talking about himself. Lundy knew Dexter docked his boat at Coral Cove Marina. His mention of security footage from the harbor was a little too on the nose. Frank Lundy flashback in Dexter, New Blood. One of the biggest breakthroughs in Dexter Season 2's Bay Harbor Butcher case was the discovery that the killer docked his boat at the Coral Cove Marina, which just so happened to be the home of Dexter's boat, Slice of Life. To make the discovery even more significant, it was known that Coral Cove harbored many boats that belonged to those in law enforcement, which made it clearer that the killer was someone in or related to the department. Just after Lundy had slyly compared Dexter's compulsions to that of the Bay Harbor Butcher, he quickly mentions that he's hoping to get a new lead from the security cameras at the marina. Dexter then seems to be a bit worried, with Lundy then questioning Dexter about having a boat there himself. Even Dexter begins to wonder if Lundy had seen him on the marina security footage before he wiped it, believing that Lundy brought him to the crime scene that day in order to mess with his confidence. Lundy doubted Dokes was the Bay Harbor Butcher. The suspect Miami Metro pinned the murders on didn't feel right to Lundy. Dokes standing in a shipyard in Dexter. Although Lundy knew that the Bay Harbor Butcher was connected to law enforcement, particularly within Miami Metro, he still didn't believe the suspect was James Dokes, even when the evidence was stacked against him. Maria Lagerta continued to try proving that Dokes was innocent by verifying he was on a stakeout with her and even went to Haiti to have Dexter's blood slides analyzed, but Lundy explained that because Maria violated protocol, he couldn't use any of her evidence to exonerate Dokes. Dexter's Frank Lundy even hinted that he believed Maria may be right about Dokes not being guilty, but had to follow police protocol in collecting evidence since he was a suspect. Sadly, by the time all the planted evidence against Dokes was stacked up, there was no way that Lundy could relieve him of blame, even if he didn't completely believe it to be true. Since Lundy doubted Dokes' guilt as the Bay Harbor butcher, the only other suspect that would make sense at Miami Metro is Dexter Morgan, suggesting he had to be Lundy's own prime suspect. Lundy may have hoped Dexter would finally find and kill Trinity. It's possible Lundy knew it would take a killer to catch a killer. Agent Lundy proved a worthy foe. While Frank Lundy was absent for Dexter Season 3, he returned to Miami in the Season 4 premiere to recruit Miami Metro's help in solving the Trinity killer case, which the FBI believed to be a wild goose chase. While personally investigating the case, Lundy frequently requested the help of Dexter's blood work and judgment, with certain lines by the FBI agent continuing to suggest he knew about Dexter's serial killing hobby. After Trinity murders Lisa Bell in Dexter Season 4, Episode 2, Lundy tells Dexter that it was kismet because if Trinity had struck elsewhere he wouldn't have had access to a blood analyst of his.